this is the name of story, All Summer in a Day. It is written by an American author, right? Ray Douglas Bradbury. So who will read the introduction part for me? Yes, Sneha, you want to read it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, read the introduction part.
All Summer in a Day. All Summer in a Day takes place on the planet Venus in a future world where rocket men and women, as Bradbury calls them, have come to live and set up a colony. Bradbury's description of Venus and its weather patterns is entirely fictional. As imagined by Bradbury, the sun appears for only 2 hours every 7 years. A class of 9-year-olds eagerly awaits a brief glimpse of the sun, especially one of the students named Margot.
Okay, so this is the introduction of the story. Now, the important thing is that the setting of the story is on the planet Venus, correct? So the story is set on Venus and not our planet Earth. And another important thing is the story is about a future world. Why future world? Because people are living on Venus, and we know today we are not having any technology, or we have not become so advanced that we can live on Venus. So this is a setting of a future world where people are living on other planets also. Okay. And the people who are living on Venus are being called as rocket men and women by Bradbury. Why they are being called as rocket men and women? Because they went to Venus in rockets. Yes, because if we want to travel to another planet, we will have to use space shuttles and rockets. So Bradbury is calling all those people who went to Venus to live as rocket men and women. Okay, they have come to live and set up a colony. So they have gone to Venus and they set up their colony on Venus. Now, another important thing is Bradbury's description of Venus and its weather patterns. Venus and its weather patterns is entirely fictional. Now, what is fictional? It means that the weather patterns as described by Bradbury are not actually scientifically true. He is imagining things. All right. The weather he tells about Venus is entirely fictional, is entirely imaginary. As Bradbury is imagining, he is writing. So this is not scientifically true. All right. So what Bradbury imagined, as imagined by Bradbury, the sun appears only for 2 hours every 7 years. So this is the imagination of Bradbury about the environment on Venus. Okay. So we were discussing that Bradbury imagined that on Venus, the sun appears only for 2 hours every 7 years. So after a gap of 7 years only, the sun appears on Venus, and it appears only for 2 hours. A class of 9-year-olds eagerly awaits a brief glimpse of the sun. So brief glimpse means that a very incomplete view just for a small period of time, especially one student named Margaret. So everybody is waiting to catch a glimpse of the sun, but Margaret is waiting a bit more. So when we read the story, we will come to know why Margaret is waiting for the sun more than anybody else. All right. So now we will start reading the text of this story. Okay.
The planet Venus with their families in the short story, All Summer in a Day. These school children were 9 years of age, and they eagerly awaited a momentous occasion. A strange thing about the planet was that for the past 7 years, it had been raining incessantly for days, months, and years. And the scientists had predicted that the sun would appear for a very short duration. As per the prediction of the scientists, the children had prepared themselves by reading about the sun. Among the whole lot, there was a girl named Margot. She was a thin, pale little girl who had lived in Ohio till the age of 5. Unlike other children, she had many fond memories of the sun. She had written a poem about the sun on the day when the sun was about to appear. The whole class bullied her because they thought that she was not like them. They hated her for her pale snow face, her quiet nature, and her thin body. They conspired against her and locked her in a closet before the teacher arrived in the class. Margot tried to resist with all her efforts, but in vain. The school children, along with their teacher, witnessed the sun after 7 long years. Their joy knew no bounds when they watched the flaming bronze ball that was huge in size appearing in the blue sky. The entire planet was bathed in sunlight. The children kept running far away into the forest, feeling the sun rays on their cheeks like a warm iron, and removed their jackets to let the sun burn their arms. After an hour of merriment, they returned to the tunnel with the fresh memories of the sun. All of a sudden, one of the girls in the group remembered that Margot was still in the closet and had missed the chance to see the sun. They ran towards the closet to unlock her. They were guilty and could not meet each other's glances. They mustered all the courage and opened the closet door. Margot slowly emerged out of the closet.
In the crossfire.
Okay, so this was a brief summary of this story. All right, so now we will proceed with the text of the story.
Can I read?
I think Ayushi, you start first.
Ready? Ready? Now? Soon. Do the scientists really know? Will it happen today? Will it? Look, look, see for yourself. The children press to each other like so many roses, so many weeds, intermixed, peering out for a look at the hidden sun. It rained. It had been
Yes.
raining for 7 years, thousands upon the thousand of days, compounded and filled from one end
Okay,
to
stop
the
there,
other.
stop there. I will explain first. So now, we already saw in the introduction itself that a class of 9-year-olds eagerly awaited to watch, to get a brief glimpse of the sun. Yes, especially one student named Margot. So now the children are saying, ready, ready. So they are ready for what? They are ready to catch a look of the sun. Yes, to catch a glimpse of the sun. All right. So now one of the students is asking now. So it means that he is asking that now will we be able to watch it? So the other is replying soon. Yes, we are going to watch it soon. Then another question is coming. Do the scientists really know? So the scientists have predicted that today the sun will come out. So now one of the students is asking, do the scientists really know that it will happen today? What will happen? Will the sun come out today? So now other students are saying, look, look, see for yourself. So they are saying that we should look out and we will come to know whether it will come out or not. Then the author is describing the children, how they are behaving, right? The children pressed to each other like so many roses and so many weeds. So the author is calling the children roses as well as weeds. So roses means the children who are well behaved, who are very good, and weeds means the children who are naughty in nature. All right. So no, weeds are undesired plants, okay, which grow in the wild. So basically, the author is calling the naughty children to be weeds, and the good children who are virtuous and good, the author is calling them to be roses. So they are all pressing against each other in the to the windows so that they can have a look at the sun. Intermix means the good ones and the naughty ones are mixed among each other, peering out for a look. Peering out means they are eager to see for a look at the hidden sun. Hidden sun, why? Because the sun is hidden behind the clouds. All right. So they are mixed among each other and they are at the window trying to get a look at the hidden sun. And what is happening? It rained. So it is raining up till now. Okay. Now, Shubhangi, you can read.
Witty drum and gush
No,
of water.
start from it had been raining.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
It had been raining for 7 years. Thousands upon thousands of days compounded and filled from one end to the other with rain, with the drum of gush of water, with the sweet crystal fall of showers, and the concussion of storms so heavy they were tidal waves come over the islands. 1,000 forests have been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. And thus the way life was forever on the planet Venus.
Yes.
And this was the schoolroom of the children of the rocket men and women who
Who
had come to a raining world to set up civilization and live out their lives.
Okay,
It's stopping.
Stop. So now the author is now describing the situation of weather on Venus, that how the climate is like on Venus. Okay. So the author is telling us that it had been raining for 7 years. So for 7 years continuously, it had been raining, and thousands upon thousands of days compounded. Compounded means to make a whole, small things making a whole. So thousands and thousands of days are being compounded, and they have made 7 years and filled from one end to the other with rain. So here one end to the other means that from morning to the evening and night, the whole day is filled with rain and with the drum and gush of water. So drum and gush of water is the noise the rain is making. So when rainwater falls on something metallic or hard surfaces, it makes a certain sound, yes? So that sound is being compared to as drum, and gush means the rushing of water, the flowing of water, the sound that water makes while flowing at a speed. That noise is being called as gush. So the drum and gush of water was coming, and with the sweet crystal fall of showers. So now the raindrop is being compared to as crystal over here. Yes, because the rainwater is white and it's clear, and so is the crystal. So a raindrop is being compared to a crystal over here. So the author is saying sweet crystal fall of showers. And the concussions of storms so heavy. Concussion of storms so heavy means the shocks of the storm, because there is always lightning, thundering, and there are heavy winds also. So there are shocks of storms so heavy that there were tidal waves. Tidal waves means the coastal waves come over the islands. So these people are living on the islands, and because the storm is so heavy, the winds are so fast and strong that huge coastal waves rise and they come towards the island. All right. Now, thousands of forests have been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. So now the author is saying that because of the rain, thousands of forests have been crushed under the rain. See, water has a very peculiar property that it can damage everything that is in it. For example, if it flows on the surface on the land, then it erodes the soil. If you put iron or any other metal in it, then iron will start rusting, corroding. Yes. So if the trees are continuously under the rain and they are always wet and moist, then naturally the wood of the trees will also start decaying very quickly if they are continuously in the rain. So what this continuous rain is doing, that it is damaging the trees. Yes. So thousands of forests have been damaged under the rain, and then once one tree dies, another one rises, then that tree decays and it dies, and then another tree grows. So the author is describing this situation on Venus, that thousands of forests had been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. And this was the way life was forever on Venus. So now the author is saying that life was forever like this on Venus and there was no change. So this is the monotony of life that the author is talking about on Venus. Okay. As this was the classroom of children of rocket men and women. So now the author is saying that all these 9-year-olds were the children of rocket men and women. So I have already told you that rocket men and women are those people who have come here to settle on Venus in rockets from Earth, right? Who had come to a raining world. Why the author is calling it to be a raining world? Can someone explain me?
Yes, sir, because it is raining for 7 years continuously, day and night, every time.
Yes, yes. That is why the author is comparing Venus, calling Venus to a raining world, because it is always raining over here, and to set up civilization and live out their life. So they have come here to settle on Venus and live out their life in this raining world. Okay. So I think now someone can start reading from here. Bhavya, you want to read?
It's stopping. It's stopping. Yes, yes. Margot stood apart around them from these children who could never remember a time when there was not rain and rain and rain. They were all 9 years old, and if there had been a day 7 years ago when the sun came out of
For an hour.
an hour and showed its face to the eastern world, they not call.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes.
Okay, you can stop here. So now,
thank you, sir.
Yes. So now it is being said that so now they are saying it's stopping, it's stopping. So it means that the rain is stopping. Yes, this is stopping is for the rain. Now everybody is happy and they are saying, yes, yes, it's stopping. But Margaret stood apart from them. Stood apart from them means that all the children are huddled in a group, as earlier the author was telling that they were mixed amongst themselves like roses and weeds. But Margaret is standing separately from these children. Why she is standing away from these children? From who could never remember. So these children can never remember a time when there wasn't rain, rain, and rain. So they can't remember a time when there was no rain. So it also means that Margaret can remember a time when there was no rain, right? Because this is what the author is trying to say, that Margaret is standing apart from these children because these children cannot remember a time where there was no rain. But so it automatically means that Margaret remembers about a time when there was no rain. They were all 9-year-old. So this is very important that they are all 9-year-old. And if there had been a day 7 years ago, So the author is saying that even if there was a day 7 years ago when the sun came out for an hour and showed its face to the stunned world. Why the author is calling it to be a stunned world? Because nobody here gets to see the sun for long span of time. Yes, 7 years is very long time. So when the sun comes out for a short period of time after 7 years, so naturally everybody is a bit shocked and surprised to see that the sun has come out. So that is why the author is calling people on the Venus to be stunned when the sun comes out. So the author is telling that since they are all 9 years old, and if there was a day 7 years ago when the sun actually came out, then these children were so small at that time, they would have been only 2 years old, right? Because now they are 9. If 7 years ago the sun had come out, they were only 2 years old at that time. So they could not recall, because a child of 2 years old cannot remember such things. If the sun came out only for 2 hours or 1 hour, then they cannot remember anything about the sun. Okay. So now I think someone should read. Who will read now? Vaishnavi, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Yes, start.
Sometimes at night she heard their stir in
Stir, it's stir,
remembrance.
not stare. Stare means to look at someone.
Stir in remembrance, and she knew they were, dreaming and remembering gold and a yellow crayon or a coin large enough to buy the word with. She knew they thought they remembered a warmness like a blushing in the face, in the body, in the arms and legs and trembling hands. But then they always awoke to the tatting drum, the endless shaking down of clear
bead necklaces.
Bead necklaces,
yes.
Upon the roof, the walk, the gardens, the forest, and their dreams were gone.
Okay, stop. So now what the author is telling, that what the children thought about the sun. Okay. So the author is saying that sometimes at night she heard them. So she over here refers to Margaret. Okay. So the author is saying that sometimes at night Margaret heard the children stir in remembrance. So when the children were sleeping, they would become a bit anxious and restless. And in their dreams, the children would remember. What they would remember, we will know. And she knew that they were dreaming and remembering gold or a yellow crayon. So what the children were remembering in their dreams, they were remembering a gold or yellow crayon or a coin large enough to buy the world with. So the children are imagining the sun to be like gold or a yellow colored crayon or a coin large enough to buy the world with. So the children are imagining in their dreams the sun to be like this. All right. Now she knew they thought they remembered. So she knew that the children thought that they remembered the sun, a warmness like blushing in the face, in the body, in the arms and legs and trembling hands. Why the author is saying all this? Because when it is very cold and you get wet, naturally you have trembling hands because you start to shiver. So you want some amount of heat in your hands, in your arms, in your legs, in your body to make you feel comfortable. So she thought that she knew that the children would remember something like this when they will try to remember the sun. All right. But they always awoke to the tatting drum. Again, now the author is describing the sound or the noise that the rain made, the tatting drum, which means that the sound of the falling rain. the endless shaking down of clear bead necklaces. So now it means that if you have a bead necklace and you break the string of the necklace and you start shaking it, what will happen? All the beads one after the other will start falling. Yes. So here the author is comparing the raindrops to the falling down of beads from a necklace. All right. And where the rainwater is falling? Upon the roof, the walk, the garden, the forest, and their dreams were gone. So they were dreaming about the sun, but when they woke up, they are only listening to the tatting drums and the endless falling of rain upon the roof, the walk, the gardens, the forest. And so the dreams were gone. All right. So now we will start reading again. Genia, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you can start now.
All day yesterday, they had read in class about the sun.
It's
about
read
how
because it's in the past tense. So we don't say read, we will say read.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
About how like a lemon it was and how hot. And they had written small stories or essays or poems about it. I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. That was Margot's poem.
It's
Read
Margaret.
in a quiet
Yes.
voice.
Okay.
In the still classroom while the rain was falling outside. Oh, you didn't write that, protested one of the boys. I did, said Margot. I did, William, said the teacher. But that was yesterday. Now the rain was slackening and
yes.
And the children were crushed in the great thick windows. Where's teacher? She'll be back. She'd better hurry. We'll miss it.
Okay, stop. So now the author is talking about what happened yesterday. So this is all happening today, that the children are waiting for the sun to come out and they are at the windows trying to get a glimpse of the sun. But what happened yesterday? All day yesterday, they had read in the class about the sun. So yesterday in the class, they were reading about the sun, about how it was like a lemon. Why the sun is being compared to a lemon? Because a lemon is usually yellow in color and spherical in shape. Yes. And that is how they were being taught, or they were imagining the sun to be. And how hot. We know that the sun is hot. So they were reading that the sun is like a lemon and the sun is hot. And they had written small stories or essays or poems about it. So all the children were also writing small stories, essays, or poems about the sun. Now, I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. So one of the students had written that the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. So now who has written this? This was Margaret's poem. So the Margaret called the sun to be a flower that bloomed for just 1 hour. Read in a quiet voice. Quiet means in a very low voice. So Margaret was reading her poem in a very low voice. Okay. In the classroom while the rain was falling outside. So yesterday also it was raining. Oh, you didn't write that, protested one of the boys. So protested means objected strongly. So one of the boys is objecting that you didn't write that poem. I did, Margaret said. I did. William, said the teacher. So we get to know that the boy who is protesting, his name is William. Okay. But that was yesterday. So the author is telling that all these things happened in the classroom yesterday. But what is happening now? Now the rain is slackening. Slackening means slowing down. So the rain is slowing down today, and the children were crushed in the great thick windows. So all the children are getting themselves crushed into the thick windows because they are trying to get a glimpse of the sun. Okay. Where's the teacher? So one of the students is asking that, where's the teacher? She will be back. She had better hurry. We will miss it. So now one of the students is saying that she should hurry up and come back because we will miss it. Because the teacher will show them the sun. All right. So they are waiting for their teacher to come. Now we will start reading ahead. Anirudh, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Start.
They turned on themselves like a feverish wheel, all tumbling spokes. Margaret stood alone. She was a very frail girl who looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years, and the rain had washed out of the blue from her eyes, and her red from her mouth, and the yellow from her hair. She was an old photograph, dusted from an album, whitened away, and
Whitened
if she
away.
spoke,
It's whitened away.
away,
Yes.
and if she spoke at all, her voice would be a ghost. Now she stood separate, staring at the rain and the loud, wet world beyond the huge glass. Where are you looking at? Said
What
William.
are you looking at?
Margaret. What are you looking at? Said William. Margaret said nothing. Speak when you are spoken to. He gave her a shove, but she did not move. Rather, she let herself be moved only by him and nothing else.
Okay, stop.
They etched away.
Okay, stop. So now the author is describing how the children were behaving at this time. They turned on themselves like a feverish wheel, all tumbling spokes. So you have seen a wheel of a bicycle or a cycle rickshaw that it has many spokes, right? So if the spokes of the wheel start to break one by one, then what will happen? The shape of the wheel will be lost. Yes, it will be dismantled, correct? So now the author is comparing the children like to that, because the children were pressed in the windows in a proper shape, all right, but now they were pushing and pulling each other constantly, all right. So what was happening, that continuously their formation was broken. So that is why the author is comparing them to a feverish wheel with all tumbling spokes. Now the author is talking about Margaret, who was standing alone. She was a very frail girl. Frail means very weak, all right, who looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years, and the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes, the red from her mouth, and the yellow from her hair. So the author is telling that Margaret had turned very pale and white, all right, because she was so depressed because of all the rain and she was not able to see the sun, that she was depressed and she was feeling very low and ill. So she had lost the blue from her eyes, red from her mouth, and yellow from her hair. Because if you see that when you get ill and you recover from a long illness, then you become very pale, all right. So this is how the author is describing Margaret to be. She was an old photograph dusted from an album, whitened away. So if there are very old photographs in an album, with the passage of time, the photograph starts losing its color. Yes. And it starts getting dull, and it starts becoming white because it starts losing its color. So that is how the author is comparing Margaret, that she is also losing the blue from her eyes, the red from her mouth, and yellow from her hair, and she is becoming very pale and white, all right. And if she spoke at all, her voice would be a ghost. So now the author is saying that if normally Margaret would not speak at all right, because she was very quiet. But if she spoke also, then also her voice was so low and so dim that who is a ghost? It's a spirit, yes. So we can't hear a ghost or a spirit, yes. So the author is comparing Margaret to a ghost or a spirit because her voice was also so low that we could barely hear her speak. All right. Now she stood separate and staring at the rain and the loud wet world. Loud wet world because the rain was always making sounds of tattling drums and gushing of water, and there was always concussions of storms also, lightning and thundering happening. So the world outside was very loud beyond the huge glass. Means she was standing behind the windows. Okay. So now William again came up to her and William is saying, "What are you staring at?" So Margaret replied, "Nothing." So Margaret is not saying anything. She is just standing and looking out, ignoring William. So now William is saying, "Speak when you are spoken to." So it shows that Margaret usually didn't reply to anybody. All right. So William is getting irritated and saying that speak when you are spoken to. He gave her a shove. Shove means to forcefully push her. All right. But she didn't move. Rather, she let herself be moved only by him and nothing else. So when William pushed her, she let herself being pushed by William, but she did not move on her own. All right. So now who will start reading ahead further? Akash, you want to read further?
Yes, sir.
Okay, start.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
They edged away from her. They would not look at her. She felt them go away. And this was because she would play no games with them in the echoing tunnels
Echo. It's
of
echo. Yes.
in the echoing tunnels of the underground because city. If they tagged her and ran, she stood blinking after them and did not follow. When the class sang songs about happiness and life and games, her lips bravely moved. Only when they sang about the sun and the summer did her lips move as she watched the dredged windows.
Okay,
And then,
stop.
thank you, sir.
Okay. So now the author is talking more about how Margaret behaved and how the other children behaved with Margaret. So now all the children edged away means moved away from her. They did not look at Margaret at all, and she felt them go away. And this was because why this was happening? Because she would play no games with them in the echoing tunnels of the underground city. So Margaret would not play with anyone. She would always remain aloof, alone. All right. And echoing tunnels, because when you see that a room is empty, you speak something, then the voice comes back to you. It starts echoing. So this is what they are talking about, that there were underground tunnels in the city and the children used to shout in them and their voice used to echo. Okay. So now one habit the children also have, that they tag each other and then they start running. So if they tagged Margaret and ran, she stood blinking after them and did not follow. So Margaret did not run along with them. If one of them tagged her also, then also Margaret just stood there only blinking and she would not respond at all. When the class sang songs about happiness and life and games, her lips barely moved. Barely means hardly moved. So when the class is very happy and they're singing songs about happiness and life, then Margaret would feel depressed and she would not participate in all those activities. Only when they sang about the sun and the summer. So this season was rainy season, yes, winter season on Venus. So when the children used to sing about the sun and the summer season, only then Margaret would start participating. Her lips moved means she would also join them in singing and participated in the activity. Only when they sang about the sun and the summer. As she watched the drenched windows. Drenched means wet and soaked in water. Why the windows are drenched and soaked? Because it is raining and the water is falling on the window panes. All right. That is why the author is calling the windows to be drenched. All right. I think we will stop here today. Okay.